We're live. Hey, this is Foster Care, an Unparalleled Journey with Jason.
And Amanda.
And this is our first time going live on pretty much any platform, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't really know what we're doing yet. So it looks like we're stumbling through. Have patience and a little bit of mercy. We don't really know what we're doing. We have a podcast called Foster Care, an Unparalleled Journey. You can pick that up on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play. It's on all the regular things and then a whole bunch of unregular things. So you can look around and find it if you're interested in listening to it. But tonight we just wanted to come in and talk about a topic here. I got a post from Amanda. She sent me. She found on Facebook today, and it was a blog post from February of 2016. The name of the blog was "I Must Be Trippin' on Blogspot." But it was a post about a bunch of different things about foster care. And since we are a foster and adoptive family, we have a decent amount of experience there. I was reading through it, and one of the posts kind of struck me. And I'm going to read part of the post here. It was things that you need to know if you're thinking about becoming a foster parent. And one of them was know your limits. The post goes like this. When you step into a world of foster or adoption land, one of the very first questions they ask you is what age, gender, race, behaviors, medical needs, number of children, etc. do you feel you are willing and able to accept? I have learned over the years that there is definitely a reason for that. Foster parents' heart are often much larger than our brains, and the thought of saying no to any child seems inconceivable. This is where you have to be honest with yourself and know what you can handle and not handle. Not just you as a parent, but your entire family. It is much better to set limits when it comes to accepting placements than to get in over your head and potentially have to disrupt a placement later. You will find that your abilities and family will grow and adjust with time as well, and it is perfectly acceptable to reevaluate as time goes on. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say, that's someplace where we had to learn. We had to decide what was right for us and our kids, our family and what worked and what didn't work.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did.
Some of it was trial and error,
Sometimes more error than...
Yeah, I mean, there were some errors, but we made it through. I would say one thing that was, from the beginning, one thing that was important to us is we always kind of wanted to try to keep our birth order in place for our children.
Yeah.
That didn't always work out because you don't always just get one kid. Sometimes you get 2 or 3 kids. And so you can't always preserve that. But that was one thing that we always tried to do for our biological kids and the children that we had adopted in our home.
Yeah.
We wanted them to keep their spot. Everybody had their role and their spot, and we didn't want to take that away and give it to another kid. We didn't want there to be resentment.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, there's no way to not change the birth order to some degree, but we always chose just to keep it the same age or younger than our youngest kid at the time, whatever that age was. And that gave us the ability to be able to kind of leave the structure in place to some degree. So that always seemed to work out well for us, and I know that a lot of people kind of bristle a little bit at hearing the fact that you can choose not just age, but gender and race and behaviors and medical needs and all that sort of thing. But even things like race are important to pay attention to, because if you have a family member who has a lot of problems with a certain race of people and you're going to be closely connected with them, bringing them into that could be a real danger.
Well, yeah, I mean, it leads to a lot of potential to do more harm than good. You have the potential to harm a child instead of help a child. And I would say it also depends on where you live too.
Yeah.
There's some places where, it's just not accepted. We're still in that day and age where not everything is accepted.
Yeah, I would agree there. I mean, and we're if you don't know us, which on here don't know why you would, because we're brand new to YouTube, but we are in kind of east central Missouri area. We are west of St. Louis by a good clip, but we're kind of starting into the rural area of Missouri here. And in our specific little town, we have a pretty integrated, culture. There's a lot of white kids, a lot of black kids, a lot of mixed kids, a lot of kids I couldn't tell you what race they are exactly. And it seems to be that in our little area, it's not much of a deal. But you don't have to go too far to find somebody who could have a problem with it. And even outside of that, we had some family members that we went and talked to before we started doing it and just said, hey, just so you know, this is what we're looking at doing. And if you have a problem with that, let us know now because we just won't be around. And that ended up working out pretty well for us because even the family members we thought we would have problems out of, we didn't have any problems out of them.
Yeah, I mean, the one particular family member, we actually, she had a change of heart. It really opened up her eyes and opened up her heart too. There was a lot of growth there where I saw potential, for it to be a disaster.
Yeah.
But it really changed her heart, and it was really wonderful to see.
But that was something we had to think about saying no about just because we had to know it was best for the kids. And so I'm glad that on that one we went that way. But there were a couple times when we ended up having to say no to something that really just wasn't the best thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, teens was always kind of something that we always kind of shied away from.
Yes.
We knew that, or at least we thought we knew that, toddlers and babies, that was going to be our thing. We were good at that. We had mastered that. We had many of them. We hadn't had many teens.
Yeah.
So teens were scary. They're still scary. We got a couple of teens that, they're scary. But teens was the other part that we decided, that might not be for us. But we did end up taking a teen.
Yeah, we got a phone call and had a young guy who was going to end up going to Boys Town, which I don't know if Boys Town is a thing everywhere, but it's kind of it's not juvenile. It's like a group home for boys, I guess you would say.
It is like a juvie group home for boys. But let me back up just a second. With that particular placement, it started, we just need a home for the weekend.
Yeah.
So that we can get this young man set up where he needed to be. Emergency placement for the weekend, which is why, against our better judgment, we said, it's a weekend. We can do a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We can do this. We got this.
And we did it a weekend.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
We did it next
Monday
weekend.
Came and I heard nothing. So Tuesday morning, I'm calling our worker and she says, well, here's the thing. We can't find a place for this young man.
Yep.
We have no family members. We have no homes. We've exhausted all of our resources. He's been in several other homes and none of his placements have ever stuck. I can come and get him today. And I said, well, what happens if you come and get him today? And she said, well, I'll be honest with you. If I come and pick this young man up today, I'm going to take him to Boys Town. And Boys Town is kind of like a juvie. There's kids that have gotten into trouble, runaways, theft, drugs. And it broke my heart that there was this young man that, he wasn't a thief. He wasn't a drug addict. He was a teen that needed help.
He was a victim of the circumstances of his parents.
And so it broke my heart. And, so me and Jason, we talked about it because you have to talk to your other half. That's key. Please talk to your other half.
Yeah.
But we talked about it and, we decided, okay, maybe we can do this, because the alternative didn't seem like a good plan for this young man.
Yeah.
And so we tried. And it didn't go as planned.
It never does.
But we did our best, and unfortunately, we did have to disrupt this placement.
Yep.
This young man, he needed more. He needed more than what we could give him. With all the younger kids in the house, we did not have the time or the resources to get him the help that he needed where we were at.
I would agree with that. And when he left, it was I talked with a worker the next day, and he was with us for about 5 weeks. And I called the next day and said, "Hey, I'm sorry that went down the way it did, but he was he was trying to kind of buck up to Amanda a little bit and trying to almost act like he was going to be a little bit physical, and whether that was his intention to come across that way or not, I don't really know, but that's how he came across. And the reason why he had to leave is because my other two teen boys at that point looked at mom and said, "Mom, you want us to take care of this? We'll take it." And they kind of got aggressive, and it looked like we were about to end up with in some sort of physical violence. And we said, "Yeah, no, we don't need this problem."
And none of that happened. There was no physical violence.
No.
But there were some issues, and there was a little bit of an unhealthy attachment.
Yeah.
It was best for that young man and for our family for us to say, okay, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
So you can say no. You do get that choice, but to know your limits ahead of time and to be willing to stick with that. Because what happened is we may have been that young man's longest placement, but we were also a disruption.
Yeah.
We were one more place where it didn't work.
But I guess the good side is he did not end up going to Boys Town. He stayed with us for about 5 weeks, and the worker had told me that was the longest placement he'd ever been able to stay at. So I felt good that at least we'd stuck it out pretty long, gave him the best chance we could give him. But he did eventually end up going to a family type placement. I forget exactly how he was related. It was an uncle or brother-in-law or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he ended up going to a family placement.
But the other part of that story is we still see this young man from time to time. We see him out in public. We've seen him at church, and he's been able to approach us, and we say, "Hi, how are you doing? How's life going?" We've been able to see him from time to time, watch him grow, and he seems to be doing really well.
Yep.
And I don't think that he would have thrived like that in our house.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There was only one other placement we ever had to really drop a hard no on, and we had a pair of young boys. These guys were probably 2, 3, 4 years old in that range, and they came to our house and they stayed with us for a while. I forget exactly how long they were with us the first time, but they came to us, and it was, again, I think it was another like emergency placement sort of a thing. They were supposed to have their forever home coming up, but the adoptive parent had to get a few things taken care of, if I remember right. They were just going to be with us for a short time, and so they stayed with us. And the one little boy, he was never diagnosed, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, although I play one on YouTube.
I was going to say, you tell me you are all the time.
No, I say I'm a completely untrained practicing hobbyist psychologist, but I'm not a real psychologist. I just play one on YouTube. But if I had to guess, I would say that if he would have been in to be checked out, he would have probably been diagnosed ODD. He was oppositional defiance disorder was what I saw in him, for what that's worth. If you said yes, he said no before the why was done, and I don't do well with that. That's not my strong point. I do well with kids that I can work with and kind of partner with. But when everything you do is met with a fight, it just and this has been several years back and a few teenagers ago. So I've learned how to work with that and become a lot better with that now. But at the time, it was a struggle. It was a real struggle for us.
In your older age, you have found a lot more patience.
I have found more patience the patience comes as along with the grace. So
Is that what it is?
I guess. But yeah, no. So they left and went to their forever home, or at least that was the plan. And it did not last long at all. And I forget why that particular placement disrupted. I just know that it did. And we were out at there's a local flea market. It's actually a pretty good sized flea market. They have a lot of vendors show up there, and they do it weekly. And we were out there that morning, and just us and our kids at the time. We didn't have any foster kids with us, and we were just out kind of just
spending the day.
Yeah. It was a nice day, and it was an outdoor market sort of thing. We just went out and hung out, and my phone rings, and it's a children's division marker calling us to say, "Hey, these kids are coming back in. We need a placement. I know you were the last placement. Do you
Well, and they
want to do
hadn't
it
been
again?
gone long. They had maybe been gone a week and a half.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was a
It
week
was
or
a
two.
very short time. The woman who had taken these two young boys, she just wasn't set up to be able to handle, not being listened to, and two young boys when she didn't have young kids before. It was a valiant effort.
Yeah, we'll give her
But
that.
she was not ready for the trials that she was going to face.
And the one brother, he was a really happy, really compliant, really just kid who seemed comfortable in his own skin. He was a little bit younger, and the older brother was the one who was really defiant. And I've learned since that usually means that that's just signs of their trauma. There was some sort of trauma going on there that we didn't know how to deal with at the time. But when they called us back, Amanda had taken one of the younger kids over to the bathroom, and I got the phone call, and I thought for a moment, and all those things that you hear about, always say no if you feel it's the right thing, don't push. And I sat and I felt a little bit guilty, to be perfectly honest, to say, that wasn't the best fit for our home.
Well, and we asked our children too.
I didn't.
I did.
Not when they first called. I didn't.
Well, I ended up asking our children because for me to say no goes against everything in me. I have a real hard time with that.
Which is why I did not ask you. I was on the phone with the children's division worker while you were walked away, and what I told the worker was, why don't you call around? It wasn't the best fit for our home. Call around and see if you can find another placement, and if you can't, call us back. But I wanted to kind of give us a little bit of an out first to see if we could find a better plan for him. And when she came back up and I told her what had happened, and the first thing she did was mention a couple other foster parents that we know who had some daughters, and they wanted to be able to adopt little boys. They wanted a little boy or two, and that was just what they wanted, and to kind of round out their family, and that's, she mentioned them. I went, why didn't I ever think of that? They're looking for boys, and those are boys that they were, if I remember right, they were already legally available for adoption.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I don't know anything about their foster case, or their bio parent case prior to that. I may have known some of the details, but I don't remember it now.
Yeah, they were free and clear for adoption.
Yeah. But to know that she mentioned them, we called the worker back and said, hey,
have you called?
Yeah, why don't you give these guys a call, because this is what they are looking for. And I'll tell you what, it was not many months later when I happened to see them talking about their and they were talking about their pending adoption coming up, and those two boys ended up in their home forever.
And I mean, we're talking years ago, and these two young men are doing great. They found their forever home, with a mom and a dad and sisters, and they're doing phenomenal. And had we have taken those two young men back, they might not have gone on to their forever family.
Yeah.
That opportunity may have been missed.
And I want to tell you guys that story just so you know that, if you're a foster family out there somewhere, if you're a foster kid, or we're in the foster care system, and you got to understand that sometimes certain kids just don't mess with certain families, and it doesn't mean there's a problem with the kid necessarily. It means that we don't mesh well. There's a whole lot of women in the world that did not get to date or marry me.
I was the lucky one. Yay me.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, some fits just aren't good fits. And thank God we were willing to realize that and say no in that moment so that they could go on to find the place that was the best for them. And that really, I look back and go, as much as we felt bad in the moment, we talked about it later. We felt bad in the moment, but it felt so good a year or two later to see them not only
absolutely.
in another house, but thriving in that home. And the other parents, they were a little bit younger than us. That their situation, their background was different, and they really thrived with dealing with these kids who, especially the one boy who had so many defiance issues, and they really seemed to be able to understand how to handle that. They did a better job than I ever would have done.
Well, the thing was, is I remember getting on Facebook one day, and just brought a big smile to my face and actually tears to my eyes. I got to see all the adoption day photos
Yeah,
of this family, just so happy, and the smiles on these two little boys' faces, and it took away all those feelings of regret, or
or
feeling
guilt,
bad and
or
guilt
yeah,
for saying no. It felt right. It made it all come back around and say, I made the right decision. This
yeah,
is what was best for these kids, and it's what was best for our family at the time
yeah.
and the children that we had in our home.
So when people tell you that if you feel like you need to say no, you should say no, believe it. Because, we're not the only foster home out there. We are not the ones responsible for being the savior of every child in the world. We take care of what we can. We do what's good for best for our family and best for the kids we bring in. And that was a situation where we were at least wise enough to say, this is not the best for us or them. Look here, go look there. And they ended up in the best possible situation. So yeah, that worked out really well for us.
Yeah, I mean, it really did. It is, it took me a while to really believe that it is okay to say no. It really is okay to say no, because in the end, you can end up doing more harm than good. And we're here to do good. We're here to do the best that we can with what we have. And I would never want to intentionally cause harm. And I could do that by taking a placement that was not
Oh yeah.
right for our home.
Oh yeah.
I can harm that child, I can harm our children, and it took me a while to be okay with that. But seeing the times that we have said no, seeing the outcome, it was the right thing to do. And I would do it over again. I would say no again. And you have to be able to stand up for yourself and say no. Children's Division will call again. I promise you.
Yeah,
If
they
you
will.
tell them no, they will call you again and again and again and again.
Yes, they will. Uh, did you have anything else to say about this one today, or?
Actually, I did. I do want to say, when you first become a foster parent and that phone rings, you get really excited. You're like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is all the long hours and the classes and the home studies and putting yourself out there. So you get that first phone call and you're excited. Have yourself a list of questions together.
Yeah.
Get yourself a list of questions that you want to ask, the information that you need to be able to make an informed decision for yourself and your family. I will tell you, in the moment, the caseworkers are not going to have all of the answers, but they may have some clues. But have yourself a list of questions so you don't get caught up in the moment of just saying yes.
Yeah. What are your non-negotiables? Have a list of things that you're not willing to put up with.
Your deal breakers.
I mean, for some people, that's it might be a kid who's experienced sexual abuse, because that really wigs certain people out. They can't, they don't want to think about that.
Well, it does, and if it's something that is a trauma in your past that is going to make it difficult for you to be able to parent or help this child, you need to know.
Yeah, because the best thing you can do is know your own triggers so that you don't pass those on to another kid. So yeah, just know the things that you're looking for and be willing to ask about those. And remember that, yeah, you're right, Amanda. That's the workers tell you what they know, but sometimes that's a real short list. I remember well when a couple kids who are still here showed up at our house 10 years ago. I think it was. Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Maybe.
We asked the question, are they potty trained? And the worker said, I don't know. Let's check and see if they're wearing diapers.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember that pretty clearly. Because, we had been out of diapers with our other kids for several years. And I thought, oh, man, we didn't even think about this. Turned out they were potty trained. Yay.
But I think the only other thing that I really wanted to touch on is when a child comes into care, There's always some sort of trauma. They wouldn't be here if there wasn't some sort of trauma. And
Yeah.
so I just want to express that if you say yes when you know it's a bad fit and you have to disrupt that placement, that's one more trauma for that child. That's one more broken attachment. And you may think, oh, I'm just foster mom and foster dad. I'm just a caregiver. To these kids, that can be everything. They're here. They want to trust you. And it takes a while to gain that trust, but they want that trust. They want that love, that foundation. And so you want to do everything in your power not to break that. It's been broken enough. So if it's something that you can't do, just man up and say, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Call me on the next go round.
Yep. And they will. There will be another kid available.
Sometimes they'll call you for more than once in a day.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. Because at the end of the day, we're not doing this to make ourselves more awesome. We're not doing this to increase the size of our family. We're not doing this for any reason that has to do with us. And if you're doing it for that reason, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. You're doing it to take care of your kid. And you got to realize what's best for them. And if you don't think that you are going to be able to handle this, then you probably should pass and let someone else take care of it if that does feel like they can handle it, so that you don't end up disrupting a placement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here, to provide strength among the weakest.
Yep. That's our mission statement. Providing strength for the weakest among us. So, all right. Well, we are a little bit over the time we had planned to be on here. So
Peace out.
We're going to jump off of here, and we will probably record another one soon. I don't know if we're going to do it tonight or not yet. It's getting kind of late here.
Well, we are old. It's past our bedtime.
Yeah, it was past my bedtime at 7:30, you whippersnapper.
Oh, it happens.
But yeah, so we're going to put a few of these up here on the channel and see if anybody likes it. It's YouTube, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Check out our podcast.
Yep, look at the podcast.
Give us some feedback. We want to hear.
Yep.
If there's something you want to know about, questions you have, leave it. We'll touch on it.
Foster care and unparalleled journey, which is kind of a difficult one to spell out. It's 1 R, 2 L's, and then 1 L. Or you just go on there and search for, go into your podcast app and search for Jason and Amanda Palmer, and you'll find us there. So we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye.